King 1022 lathe is the same lathe that I had in my old workshop, and we did do a video on creating a carriage lock for this. I will have to do that again with the new lathe, and since I did get some questions about how that was done, the video wasn't very explanatory. We're going to do another video on that. Now here's the screw that locks the carriage. If you want to adjust that, you've got to put an Allen wrench in here and turn it, which means you've got to keep an Allen wrench around. So I didn't like that. I wanted a little handle here that I could just turn and it would be easier to do. So I'm going to change the design a little bit from the last one. What we've got here is a piece of stock, and I don't even know what size the stock is. I just eyeballed it. It looks like about 600 thou. So it's probably 5/8 stock. And we've turned this section down 1 200,000ths of an inch from here to here. And we've turned it down so the OD will accommodate a 6mm thread, which is what the thread is on the lathe here for that lock. And we've got it down to size now. And now we have to create the size for the head. So we'll have to take that screw out of there, measure that head, and turn this down so it would simulate that head. So that's our next step. Okay, this OD of this piece here is 386 thousandths, which is the same as our Allen screw that's in there, Allen head screw. And the length of this here is 140 thousandths. We've just taken our last pass. We're really close to that. It's not all that fussy, but we're close. And we're just going to go in and clean up this little shoulder here and make sure that it's square to the center line of the shaft. Now that part is done. Step is to figure out how I'm going to use this piece here as a handle. I think I'll thread one end of this. Might shorten it up a little bit, it's kind of long. And I'll drill and tap a hole for, well, this is 1/4 inch material, so maybe a 1/4 20 thread. Put a 1/4 20 thread right in here, and we can put this handle on so we can turn it. But I do have to find out where this rotationally will stop when I screw it in on the lathe. So I'm going to have to thread this. That'll be the next step, and we'll get that done right now. Okay, there's our 6x1mm thread on here. And all we have to do now is part this off here. We'll make this about a 1/2 inch long here on this larger section, about a 1/2 inch long. And maybe I won't part it off. Parting is not one of my favorite things. And in this case, I can just take this out of the chuck and saw it off on the saw and turn it around and face it off, and I shouldn't have any problems. We've got that inserted in the hole that we took our screw out of. And I've taken a pair of pliers and I've tightened that up pretty tight. That's not going to move. So I'm thinking that's okay if this handle is over like this. And when I loosen it, we got to see how far it's going to come back here, because what we don't want to happen is when I move the tailstock in, if I come in really close here, that's going to take up some room and our handle is going to perhaps hit it. So we're going to see what kind of travel we have between the tightened situation and the loosened situation on the carriage lock. So here's the mark that we put on it when it was tight, right here. I don't know if you can see that or not. Anyway, we're loose now. We can move the carriage back and forth, no problems. And we're not going to be in the way of the tailstock when it moves up, because we're going to be sticking straight out here. So we're going to go ahead now and cut it off right here. and do our drilling and tapping for the handle. I decided to use this non-machine part to hold this while I'm doing the rest of the work, and then we'll cut it off. That would be a little easier. The diameter up here is 602. We're going to pick up the edge here. Just wind in here till the little light comes on. There we are. And we can now move over 301 thousandths to get on center. So we're about to tap this with our 1/4-20 tap. I decided to drill this hole all the way through because the only bottoming tap that I had of that size didn't appear to be in good shape. And drilling it through just is insurance that I'm going to have plenty of thread in there and I'm not going to get stuck for distance in the hole. Decided to put a very small flat across the top here. I think that handle might seat better with it that way. I do not recommend using one of these in one of those. What can happen when you put an end mill in a chuck is going to try to pull itself down and dig in. Now, if you're taking a really light cut, you're probably safe. So let's hope I'm safe here. Just a little bit more than that, and we'll have it. Well, I think that ought to do it. Well, the hard part's done. All finished. Now for the easy part, we're just going to make the handle. And the handle is done. I've got the threads on here. Hopefully this is not too long. I don't think anything's in the way, and the longer it is, the easier it is to lock that carriage up. And what I'm going to do now is clean that up with a little alcohol. Spray it. These spray cans are great. You fill them with alcohol and pressurize them with air. Push down on the lever and you've got what you want. And just clean that up a little bit. There we go. And we're going to put a coating on top of this. I'll show you what I'm going to do in a sec here. We're putting a piece of this heat shrink tubing on here. I've already slipped it on. We just have to warm it up a little bit with the heat gun and that'll stick to it. I think I'll warm that just a little bit more and then we'll screw it in. Okay, there we are in the released situation, and we should be able to move this back and forth now. That's not going to be a problem. And if we tighten it up, nope, she won't move. So we've got a lock here that's easy to get at and easy to release, and I don't have to go looking for that Allen wrench anymore.